This is the truth. At one time, WCW was good. Great even. It didn't fluke its way to the top of the mountain. It was because World Championship Wrestling was offering some good old-fashioned sports entertainment. Let's not pretend that the then WWF weren't watching either, and if you do need proper evidence of that, well, here's 10 times it certainly did look like an idea or two was borrowed. Number 10, a brand new title. When you do go through the numbers, where WCW really fell down is how they did outside the USA. The WWF was very good at selling themselves as an international company, hence why they smashed it at SummerSlam 1991. They sold out Wembley. So when WCW did leave the NWA in 1993, it changed the name of its World Championship to the International World Title. That wasn't an accident. They wanted to get the message out there that it too could be seen in such a fashion. While it was a few years later when the World Wrestling Federation introduced the European belt, a lot of its messaging was almost exactly the same. British Bulldog won it in Germany for one, but also it was outwardly said it existed so performers could represent all areas of the continent. As we know, it didn't take long before it came just another secondary championship, but yeah, the hope was it would get the likes of England, France, and Italy excited, because we would have our very own guy. I mean, not quite. Number 9, Raw Roulette. Spin the wheel, make a deal. The tagline for Raw Roulette, right? Nope. This was WCW. Back in the early 90s, you would hear this all the time on WCW as a giant spinning circle would reveal match stipulations for the evening and who was gonna fight who. Fast forward to Raw in October 2002, and all of a sudden we did have our own version of Roulette, and yeah, it was ironically the same deal. Now it was way more over the top than WCW's with more elaborate choices, but look, they still got the plan from somewhere, and I cannot believe it wasn't a suggestion from World Championship Wrestling. You don't fluke this, and also, it was 2002, they'd bought the damn company. Over the years, WWE went back to this as well whenever they needed to try and pop a rating, and NXT loves it too. Most Halloween Havoc shows utilize this gimmick, so the legacy lives on. Whatever works, I suppose. Number 8, The Artiste. It has all changed now, of course, but in 2017, Patrick Clark, who was mostly known for his part in Tough Enough, transformed himself into the Velveteen Dream. The clear inspiration was Prince, and he used this to make quite a name for himself. Then it all went very bad. As we have moved on though, it's time to spare a thought for another old school wrestler, this time Prince Iakea. One day he woke up and thought, man, you know who's great? It is Prince. So he mimicked this idea and turned himself into the artist. You can figure it out. There was a lot of purple and prancing around, plus he had a valet called Paisley. Here's the difference, this one didn't really work. Nobody actually cared. Now, I'm not sure whether anybody in WWE used this as a template, but it felt weird nobody talked about it back then. There were so many similarities because the central concept was Prince. There's only so many ways you can go about it, and eventually you're going to have a logo. So I just felt that this one needed to be said. We have said it. Let's move on and talk about bottoms. Number 7, Mr. Ass was the second booty man. And this isn't a good thing, because as the Attitude Era was in full flow, Billy Gunn decided to rename himself Mr. Ass. He even had it written on his bum for ultimate awareness. He was all about those butts. You can't say it didn't work, as he got so popular the WWF tried to push him as a singles guy. And sure, that didn't click, but we did try. He became popular because of his tuchus. Maybe this gimmick just isn't suited for anything outside of a group, because over in WCW, Ed Leslie had already tried to be the booty man. And no, I am not kidding. This was the once Brutus Beefcake too, so what a run of gimmicks he had. And my word, the amount of references to his ass was crazy. He even did the high knee. Get it? If not, don't worry about it, just move on. It didn't last long because it was awful, so fair play to Gunn for making his way bigger and more memorable, which also ties in. It got to such heights no one thought about the other guy. The success rate was night and day. Number 6, fully pitched monthly pay-per-views. Back in 1995, the WWF was indeed running monthly pay-per-views. This was the In Your House series, and between them that year, both the World Wrestling Federation and WCW ran 10 big shows each, times they were a-changing. In 1996, the WWF ran 12 as World Championship Wrestling stayed the same. Here's the deal. The In Your House events were meant to be cheaper shows to entice you to buy them. It also meant the likes of WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble felt bigger. It was a sound strategy until WCW went crazy with these. Because they decided, why don't we just charge the same for all our pay-per-views and run them every 4 weeks? The WWF thought this was mad because it will never work, and then it did. Whoop. By Ground Zero in 1997, Vince McMahon had followed suit and increased the run time, so we had parity across the board, so yeah. If you want to be mad at someone for what we had to put up with for years, get mad at WCW. Here is the thing though, worth is all about what an individual is willing to pay, Clearly fans were more than happy with this, and away we went. Number 5, Vince mimics Bischoff. So this will get you going. It is true though. We all know the Mr. McMahon character was a huge success in the late 90s, and his feud with Steve Austin was all time. Helped turn the company into the powerhouse it is today. The thing is though, if we do go by the diary, yeah, Eric Bischoff, as part of the NWO, started walking around as the boss in the 18th of November 1996 episode of Nitro. Given that McMahon didn't jump into his role until after the Montreal Screwjob, it means World Championship Wrestling had a 1-year jump on them. That is mad. I would assume Vince never actually planned or wanted to do this because that is so long. But after the Bret Hart situation, he didn't think he had another choice, and he followed suit anyway. Number 4, War Games is hell. I don't care about this one. If a good idea is a good idea, do it. So in 1997, when the WWF showed off their brand new Hell in a Cell, it was cool. It was a massive steel cage with a roof, but again, what does that sound like? Bingo! WCW's War Games. You can still argue this, as that concept was 2 rings and other madness that we see today at the Survivor Series, but the idea for both was a cage on steroids. It was meant to make your eyes go wow. In terms of the WWF 2, a lot of this happened fast. As soon as the blue classic cage was gone, they just went all in, but it was the right move even if World Championship Wrestling did inspire it. That first match between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, for example, that is absolutely legendary. Number 3, The Undertaker's Flock. Go back and watch Raven's work in WCW from 1997 to 1998. Dude was ahead of the game, and his flock was so well done, it would even get onto cards dominated by the NWO. We all knew. I do admit this one may be a bit of a stretch, but it wouldn't surprise me if the WWF saw how well this was doing and turned to their own somewhat out-of-the-box character and built a group around him too. This was, of course, the Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness. I mean, this was all goths, vampires, and other spooky people, and in terms of the look, yeah, it was right out of the late 90s. The central theme was the respective leaders treating their underlings like trash as well, but look, there is every chance, although if I am being honest, the flock was better. Taker's band of misfits just got way too weird after a while. I mean, they were doing some super dodgy things. Number 2, Randy Orton is NWO. Because he wore a flippin' t-shirt that read RKO in the New World Order style, why not? This was 2005, so the WWE had long bought their competition, and for a very brief period, this became Randy's merchandise of choice, especially during his feud with The Undertaker. It didn't last long for whatever reason, but it was when he was playing the Legend Killer, so maybe it was just a way to tie it all together. This NWO shirt is all time as well, so maybe the WWF just thought they could make a killing if they tried to do it again. I mean, it must be worth something now too. These did not last long at all, so if you do have one, drop it in the comments below. Maybe you about to make a lot of money. Number 1, Thursday Night Raw. We go back to February 1997 for this, when yep, Raw was gonna be on a Thursday. This was mostly because the show was always kicked around due to other events, but given it was shoved to later in the week, we made a brand new logo for the evening, and look at it. Now look at the Nitro logo. I mean, there is a comparison to say the least, especially that live part. I do get it, as the WWF was still doing pre-tapes at this time, which WWE just loved to give away the results to on air, and given the World Championship Wrestling was winning the ratings war, maybe this was a way to try and steal some of that thunder. And yes, that was a pun. Let's not pretend both companies weren't doing the same either. I mean, there's a reason it became a war after a while. We were going to leave no prisoners. Even if our Monday show was going to Thursday, well, we'll just take your drawing and we'll do one of our own. Know of anything else that WCW or WWE pinched from each other? And I don't mean wrestlers, try and be more creative than that. Then let me know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video and subscribe. And make sure you click that video on the screen. It is me talking about WCW. Also, thank you very much for joining me as always, my friends. My name is Simon from What Culture. You have a grand old day, and I'll talk to you soon.